Good afternoon, everybody. We're on call right now with Brent Sadowick. And where are you in Canada again?
I'm from Vancouver.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. West Coast.
Yeah. All right. So how long have you been making music, and like what kind of got you into it?
I started making music when I was, I guess, 14. It was on Fruity Loops 2, if you can believe that.
Okay.
Yeah, that's when I started messing around with it. Just by chance, really. If I don't know how old you are, but back in the mp3.com kind of heyday, there was an artist on there called Cynic Project, and he had like number ones, and that's when you got MP3. You Google MP3, and then you get him, and he had like an Angel Fire website. And
Okay.
I said,
I remember Angel Fire. Yeah.
yeah. And he's like, it's like a Q&A. He's like, what do you use to make music? And he's like, I use Fruity Loops. And that got me into my first DAW. That was about, that was 2002. So 11 years ago.
Oh, wow.
12 years ago.
Cool.
Yeah. And then, I stopped for a while. And then I got into Fruity Loops 3. And that was for a couple years. And then 2005, I got into Ableton. And then in 2009, I pursued it more seriously.
So did you...
my toolkit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Were you listening to electronic music and then inspired by that to make music? Or were you just making music that, like electronically, and that was sort of just the thing that you did?
Oh, yeah. I was, when I first heard Darude Sandstorm, I think that was 2001, and that kind of got me hooked. It was at a dance, and they also played, I remember this, and it was probably the most surreal moment in my life, because the first time I heard Operation Blade, if you remember that track, it's by Public Domain.
Okay.
People should listen to that right now.
Okay. What's the name of the track? I'll make a note of that when I put it in the comments.
Oh yeah, it's Public Domain, Operation Blade. It samples New Order Confusion from the Blade soundtrack.
Oh, okay, cool.
As soon as you hear it, you'll recognize it. But it was like big, and the guy at the high school danced, like 100 little kids. I was grade 8. He was like, "This is the number one in the UK right now," and then he played it, and I was like, "Oh my god!" And I didn't know what it was for like a couple years, and then found it out and.
Sounds like a pretty informed DJ for a school dance, man.
Yeah, it was really odd. And then he went into like, Celine Dion, everyone slow dancing. It was rather awkward.
Okay, that's funny.
Yeah.
And then now you use Ableton though, right? Like when did you make the switch?
I made the switch, I think it was 2005, and only because Paul Van Dyke used it in his live shows.
Okay.
And I just thought you can use this live, so it must be better. So that's kind of when I got into it.
Okay, cool.
Using it ever since.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think I know about you from your YouTube channel. I bet most of the listeners do as well. But you've pumped out 411 videos to date, and you're really just like incredibly transparent about the work that you do and about the process that you use to make it. And I guess like the most basic question then is why do you do that? Is it good for your creative process? Is it profitable? Is it good publicity? Is there some sort of philosophy attached to that?
Yeah, well, it's more of an obligation, and it is a philosophy, because I come from a point in time where there was no YouTube videos. The only kind of information out there was Trance, and the producer section on there was just get a JP8080, which I ended up doing years later. And, there was no kind of information, and everyone kind of acts like it's a big secret or it's a magic trick. And I don't know. It's mainly like how I do it, and the philosophy behind it is I talk. Well, I obviously do like commentary during the videos. I talk like I'm talking to myself like 10 years ago.
Okay.
And the way I have the camera set up, it's like you're right beside me. So it's more, that's basically how I do it. That's the philosophy behind it.
Okay, so Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was done.
So you're kind of wanting to teach you are trying to be what you wish that you had when you started out. Would that be a good way to put it?
I'm trying to. I'm kind of, if I teleported my younger self here, that's basically
Gotcha.
what I'm doing. It's mainly for, little boys and little girls. If that makes any sense. It's mainly, it's mainly for like the younger people, because the information out there, it's mainly, it's all great, but it's like, how do you make a growl bass? Okay, cool.
Sure.
What now?
Sure. No, I think it's cool. It's really great. And on your channel, you're a very big defender of loops and using them. And many of your tracks start with that method. I mean, even if tracks don't start with loops, you've got these MIDI loops going on. And I know you've received some heat for that, but I just want to give you a chance to go ahead and, I'm not taking a stance on your method, but I just want you to talk about it, I guess.
Yeah, well, I come from loop, a loop kind of mentality. Like,
sure.
Like FL Studio, like when I first started out, it was a bar, and you work on that bar. So, I don't know, a loop on its own isn't a track, really, but it's an excellent way to kind of get started.
Sure.
Like, and I'm working on an album now, and I'm not really using any predefined loops and all that fun stuff, but I'm just trying to show like consistency, like, if you want to make a track, have a starting point. That starting point can be anything.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I sort of think of it as like maybe like a micro remix kind of idea, like having a remix can sometimes be really good creatively to kind of put you in a defined box to really push your creativity. And, maybe just starting off with that loop can do the same thing. So I think it's definitely a good thing to do.
As long as you change it.
Sure. Yeah.
Like you can't, a loop, you put a loop in 1,000 times, and 1,000 times out of 1,000, it's not going to like sit in the mix well, and it's not going to like share the same continuity of what you already have. You have to kind of alter it. So,
sure. Is there something that you sort of use as a filter for yourself, like a psychological filter? Like, are there things that you're listening for in certain loops that make you feel like, oh, I can use this or I can't use that? I mean, are you listening for the loop as a whole, as like a whole segment, or are you listening for just individual pieces? What kind of goes on?
I listen to groove because I am a techno guy. So I listen to groove and not so much sound, because I can replace sounds. But I'm mainly listening for groove and like basically just groove, really. Okay,
cool. And so how do you do that? Like, I mean, I know for me, like sometimes when I sit down and I think like, all right, I'm going to listen to groove, I end up just not listening to groove at all. So is there a technique? I mean, it may just be something that you just do naturally, but do you find yourself, or do you find that over the years you've had to sort of get in a certain mindset to just focus on that one thing?
Yeah, I don't really know. There is a filter, and I think I know what you're talking about. It's more of because people, they kind of get lost in trying to find the right sounds, and they'll go through each sound, they'll go through each preset, and they won't be able to find anything that's satisfying. And what you kind of have to do is say, okay, that is close enough. Let me adjust the tone. Let me compress it a bit, for example. Let me add some reverb. Let me kind of bus it into something else with something else. I can EQ it some more. I can do some nice little refinements. I can pitch it up, pitch it down. Ableton, it handles loops like pretty well. I think we're still talking about loops, but it handles them in a way that you can pitch them up, pitch them down. Yeah. You can add a new swing. You can import other swings or grooves or kind of playing styles. You can convert it to MIDI, and it's off most of the time, but you can kind of take that idea and then add your own kind of sounds.
Okay.
And it's more of a building block. Like 99% of my tracks, they start out as like an idea, and that could be like a super stab. That could be a house chord. That could be some sort of house loop. I could, sample something from 10, 15, 20, 30 years ago, and then it starts as that, and then I build around it.
Okay.
And yeah. Cool. No. Just rambling.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. I mean, what it's sounding like, and some guys kind of, I feel like, have a mold when they sit down, and they're very rigid about it, and they're very good. Like some guys are just very good at shaping a track and not losing sight of what they want it to be, and shaping a track into that. And it kind of sounds like maybe your method is more the reverse, in that you play around with this, and as long as the groove stays intact, the sonic quality, can change, and it may not be such a defined idea that you sit down as much as a defined quality of that aspect. Would that be fair?
Yeah, well, there was a Pensado's Place interview with Steve Duda, and he said something that like completely blew my mind. And he made a term. He said a term, and he said fighting the speakers. And I've carried that ever since I heard that interview like a year ago. I was like, wow, that's kind of what I've been doing. You can take any sound and fight with it, and use different processing and create something that you kind of want. It's more of like sculpting instead of adding to it. You're taking away.
Sure.
But then adding. Yeah.
Okay.
This is a really deep subject.
No, that's a cool analogy. I like that. All right, so we'll back up a little bit then. You've got lots of 4/4 and a lot of 4/4 tutorials and stuff. But I wasn't seeing a whole lot of like broken beat. Is that a personal bias that you have against it, or just something you're not comfortable with producing?
Yeah. I'm not going to pretend to be able to make something that I can't make.
No, that's
I
fair.
come from a deep Belgian techno, like a Belgian techno kind of. My roots are in Belgian techno, like Bonsai, Lightning, all that fun stuff. And that was in the early 2000s on compilations that I collected, and it's all 4/4, but it's more of a progression. Like I go, kick and then clap and then just kick and bass and then clap, and then it all kind of builds into something.
Okay.
And yeah, I'm 100% 4/4. If I try to make a break beat, I will fail completely. For one of my streams, I'm planning this. When I get like a milestone of subscribers, there's going to be a video called Brent Attempts Dubstep, and it's going to be hilarious.
Okay.
And yeah.
Okay. Let me know.
Yeah.
We'll that'd be awesome to see. Okay, cool.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm not gonna pretend that I can make, breaks or drum and bass. It's just not something that I can, make.
Okay.
Kind of thing. Yeah.
Okay. Totally fair.
But, I can, I know some of the processing of, say, a clap or a snare, or like a clap and a snare together and compressed with white noise. Like I know the technique, and that's some stuff I should really get into for video material.
Fair enough. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Now, you released a full-length artist album in June of last year.
Yeah.
How long did that take you to complete? And actually, go ahead and answer that first, I guess.
That was 4 months.
Okay.
Yeah, but I made one before that. It was
2010,
Illuminated. Right? Yeah, it's 2010.
What do you listen for when you're working on those artist albums? What are you listening for that says like, okay, this is done? And did that change between the first album that you made in 2010 and the one that you made last year? Did the process for saying, okay, this is done change? This is the process change for this is done, or?
I don't know. Well, yeah, absolutely. Well, you're never really done an album because both my albums are like 2 hours long, and they could have been refined, but like time constraints and just me, kind of being done with it. It's not so much the tracks. It's more of like, I'm going to sound so pretentious right now, but it's more of the symbolism behind them. They're kind of like books, like, when I made my first album, okay, never mind that one. We'll talk about Horizon, because that's kind of where I refined this idea.
Okay.
I kind of, I don't really like, it's just singles, EPs with remixes. Avicii, not slamming him, but he came up with an album, but it's all the singles.
Sure.
And even Deadmau5, there's some new stuff, but like it's all singles from the year before, right? And from a time where I would, I was 14, laying in bed, just listening to an entire album, and it's kind of a journey, and it's all new.
Yeah.
And there's a story, and there's a story behind it. And the story behind Horizon is it was kind of when I started living more. Well, it's when I earned a modest living from music. So it was more of a story of that transitional period. If you listen to it, and if people want to listen to it, they can.
I'll put it in the info for them.
Oh, yeah, cool. Because I have a new one coming out. And
Okay, awesome.
It's gonna be pretty cool. But this one, it starts out with Scarface. So it's all materialism, right? It's based off movies. So it's the Scarface kind of lead, very big, and it ends with John Murphy, Service to the Sun. So it starts out. It's kind of hard to explain, but it starts out materialism, money, money. The world is yours, like Scarface, greed.
Sure.
Which is what I was feeling years ago too. Oh, we're all made out of stars, and if it's from the movie Sunshine, and it's a really powerful piece of music at the end. So it's more of a transition. If you listen to the context of the track of the album as a whole, it goes from like one into the other.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And there's neat little vocal samples of say Bill Hicks and all that fun stuff, just to like kind of concrete a message, and the key changes and all that fun stuff. But long story short, albums should kind of be a journey, and
sure.
I'm a big fan of conceptual albums like Dark Side of the Moon, stuff like that. Kind of delving into that, and all my albums have sun and light symbology in them.
Okay.
If you notice, so it's like it's a big esoteric, weird thing. Kind of odd, but the new one is going to be that refined, and I'm like 2% done, and it's going to be very, very difficult to finish when juggling videos. But yeah. Any other questions about the album? I just want to have a tangent there.
Well, yeah, I was just going to say that I haven't been able to sit down and listen to it all the way through, but in listening to bits and pieces of it, the tracks transition into each other, just like you said, and I know what you mean, and it is sort of annoying when an artist album doesn't feel like it's anything other than just a collection of their work, Yeah, and you're absolutely right. I think that's something that's sort of been lost, especially in electronic music, maybe even more so than other genres, and that albums are just sort of there as a collection of work rather than to actually, create a narrative, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you feel like, I know you mentioned maybe your process didn't change between the album in 2010 and then the one last year, but is there anything new that you're doing with this album that you didn't do the other two? I know you said like with this one you're not using any loops as your starting point.
Oh no. It's I don't want to say what I'm doing.
Okay.
But I really but I really want to say what I'm doing.
Okay.
It's I don't know, like yes, it's going to be it's going to be long. It's going to be like a narrative, and it's going to be I don't know. It could be at the very least is something that I'll be very, very proud of, and then people that hear about it, they'll be like, I have to try that out because it's going to be in conjunction with something else.
Okay.
Yeah, it sounds really lame, but
no, man.
yeah.
we'll give it the time and space that it needs.
Yeah,
that's totally cool.
Yeah,
all right,
I know. It sounds so like pretentious, but I don't want to say anything.
No,
listen to the other ones.
Okay, it's all good. All right, what jumping just switching topics completely. What kinds of advice do you get asked for the most? Would you say, like, just in general?
Okay, here's some questions I can comfortably answer. Biggest advice is how to master, and that's kind of like master like post mixing.
Sure.
And people kind of think that mastering is more of like a good master can fix anything, when it's entirely not true. And I always tell people, work on your mix first. It's kind of like a puzzle, and not getting discouraged by failure states. There's a really cool talk from Will Wright, the creator of SimCity, and it's like 2 hours, but he talks about failure states. And what they are basically is when you see a child playing like Super Mario Brothers 3, for example, they'll not know what to do, and they'll start pressing things
Okay.
randomly.
Okay.
And that's a failure state. But then they'll press a button left or right, and then they'll move. They go, okay, I got that. Oh, press another one, jump. Oh, I can jump while moving. Oh, I fell into the cliff, or I fell down the hole. That's bad. Okay, restart. And it's all about failure states, and these failure states become far and far, like more and more separated by time.
Okay.
So what you have to do, yeah, this is going somewhere, I hope. So what you have to do is get over those failure states. If your sound isn't, going too well, that's the failure state. But if you improve slightly, that's good. So basically, what I tell people is focus on the mix down and try to mix something completely. Well, not completely, the best you can, and then listen to that, and then you'll still think, oh, that doesn't sound too good. But your next mix is going to be a little bit better and a little bit better.
Okay.
And you'll incorporate more and more techniques. You'll discover new things. But it's a really good talk by Will Wright. But you'll discover new things, and
okay. Maybe we can see if we can find that real quick, and then I'll also post that in the info. Sounds very good.
Yeah.
Cool.
But it relates to game design, but I kind of applied it to what I do and what I teach people.
Sure.
But yeah, it's mainly I need to know how to master, and I say don't just mix down. Just kick in bass at first, and then kick bass and clap, and go from there.
Okay.
Yeah. Moral of the story.
Okay. Cool.
Basically.
Cool. And is there a process that you use that you feel like really gets to that like fairly quick, or like maybe a filter that you apply, so to speak? Not an actual like more like a psychological filter. I mean, rather than like a not like a technical filter.
Yeah. To mixing?
Yeah, or like just to grab that sort of like kick, bass, and snare kind of idea, like groove that you're going for first. How would you tackle that if someone like were listening to this and they were like, all right, that is what I need to do first? How do you go about tackling that?
Okay, well, you need to. My piece of advice. I haven't put this in a video, so you get breaking news. I haven't really talked about this.
Fantastic.
But what you need, like, it's called abstract thought. So you're turning like a problem into kind of something else. So everyone here is, I am. I don't know about everyone else, but we're sitting in front of two speakers, our head, and two speakers in a rectangular pattern, right?
Sure.
I hope so. So what I do is I put each sound into its own like 3D space in my mind's eye. So think about this. Think about like your kick. Kick would be mono or close to mono. Mm-hmm. That is right down the middle, like right in front of your nose, down in front of you on your desk, right? You would have your bass. Bass kind of is in place of the kick on the off kick, but it's kind of around your keyboard area, and it goes above your kick, right? You're putting all these sounds into its own space. You know that like that bubble. It's like a diagram, a mixing diagram.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like kick, and it's like snare, hi-hat, and it's like these bubbles everywhere. That's basically how you look at it, but you put these in 3D spaces, and when you get really proficient at it, you can actually not see, but in your mind's eye, you can see your stereo width, like above, like your speakers, like around you, kind of thing. If that makes any sense?
Sure.
And
so
what
very
you
visual
do
about it,
is, you just basically put all your sounds like in your mind's eye, and you say, okay, that is here, and that's kind of moving about, and you just stack your sounds left, right, and with practice, you can totally do this without thinking. And that's, people tell me my mixes are okay, or some people say my mixes are awesome, but that's the route I took when I was having trouble with it. I couldn't quite figure it out. You take my mother, she wouldn't be able to know like 50 hertz from 500 hertz.
Right.
Right. So it's just kind of like training your mind. But if you say, okay, the kick is here, and you just kind of build around it. Yeah. And basically, yeah, work around your kick.
Okay.
But yeah, what I haven't told people, but I'm going to start doing it now, is you put things into kind of a 3D space in your mixing position. And you can see it if you pan things left or pan things right. You'll see things kind of shift. It's very, very abstract. Could be because I have a heavy art background. I don't know, but that's kind of how I go about it.
Okay. No, that's totally fair. Yeah. All right. So
I'm rambling. I know.
No, you're good. Yeah, everything's good. We're gonna back up one more time. Let's talk about some of the stuff that's like on your SoundCloud, for example. So you've got some tracks that are collaborations. It looks like with
Vehemence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did those come about? Are those like in-person collaborations, or are those over Dropbox, or?
Those are in person. I've known Dave for 10 years, and he's like a bro. And we work on tracks together. He comes over, we hang out, we play the piano.
Okay, cool. So, with you guys working together, is it sort of like, is it like two minds tackling a problem, or is it like you come in from one direction and he sort of does something, obviously related in the track but unrelated to what you're working on? Like, how do you guys work?
Yeah, well, he comes over. I say, come over with as many ideas as you can. And he basically goes, let's make it sound like this. And I go, hell yeah. And we just kind of tackle it. It's a big exercise because he is into big room. I'm sure you call it big room or progressive house. I'm not sure.
Okay, sure, yeah.
But it's that huge kick and like gravelly bass line. Yeah. And, we kind of recreate that, and then he says, we'll add what you add, and then I'll add like a 303 or something techno-y, because we just kind of two minds collide. Like the purest techno guy in me clashes with the modern progressive house, big room house.
Okay.
And we just kind of, it's like a mishmash. So it's like a true collaboration.
Yeah. So when you
when
you sit down, like he brings ideas, it's not like he's like, all right, I'm gonna bang out some chords on the keyboard, and you're like, all right, I'm gonna like work on some patches. Like you're both doing the same thing, but coming at it from two different backgrounds. Is that sort of what you're saying?
Oh yeah, well we're both working at the same thing at the same time.
Right. Yeah.
Like I have quite a bit of gear, so there's always something for him to write ideas down with, per se. He really enjoys Push, and I'll be on the Virus, and we'll just go around from there. Okay. We'll do a lot of, because he's a DJ, he's a really good DJ. The macro knobs, what I'll do is I'll set up macros for filter cutoff, resonance, etc., and then he will record automation, and it's real human automation from him because he's a DJ, basically. That's what I said. Yeah.
Cool. You talked about your album coming out. I obviously don't want to give too much away about that, but do you happen to have like a goal set for yourself, or a time frame that you would guess that you might have that coming out?
Yeah. I don't want to be that guy that,
sure.
I have cool stuff coming up, but I can't talk about it. It's independent, because sure. I run my own labels. It's all me. It's not a contractual obligation,
sure.
or an NDA. The goal, there's always a goal, and it's always a theme, and I just hope I execute the theme correctly, sure. Or satisfactory. Yeah, because it's always, each album is more of a milestone, so it reflects my current production skill, my personal mentality, and all that. It's more of a I've drawn a blank here, but each album is it's like a diary. I meant to say it's like a diary,
gotcha.
Or a journal, or like a novel,
okay.
A personal novel.
Okay.
So we're coming up on the trilogy.
Gotcha. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
Is there anything as far as single work or anything that you want to talk about that you're excited coming up? You know what I wanted to ask you?
Yeah.
And you might not be able to talk about this too much. I don't want to step on any toes here.
Yeah.
But I saw that you mentioned on Facebook that you were doing some like ghost production. Am I allowed to say that like that?
Yeah, you're allowed to say that.
Okay.
I think it cut out.
Okay.
Okay. Never mind. Okay.
So could you talk about that a little bit? I mean, as far as you can, obviously.
It's an excellent way to pay rent.
No, that's totally fair. So, how much ghost production do you do, and sort of how did you get into it?
I got into it. Yeah. I got into it a little too early. I got into it like a year after I started like doing serious production. And it was just mainly like it started like as engineering work. So like, hey, I need help finishing this track. And I go, oh, okay. Oh, I know what's missing. All right. Da, da, da. And then that was more of like an engineering thing.
Okay.
And then people say, I have to do this remix. Can you make it sound like this? And I'd just say, okay. And I do it that way. It's pretty self-explanatory. Like I don't really advertise, but
right.
because of the channel, I get like 7,000 views a day, and that's a lot of aspiring people.
Sure.
So it just kind of comes to me.
Okay. Now, when you said that you started too early, what do you mean by that?
Oh, yeah. Well, I think a lot of producer people would agree. If you listen to a mix you did 6 months ago, you'll cringe. So it's more of like, yeah, a year after I started producing, 2010, I was not competent in production that much.
Okay.
Well, yeah.
So even though you started music production, you said like around 10, 11 years ago, you may not have caught up to speed, so to speak, as far as like really being competent and confident. What would you say, like 2 years ago, 3 years ago? Until then?
I'm still not competent, I don't think, but
okay.
Like I guess I'm okay now. I'm doing okay.
Okay.
But yeah, it's just a constant improvement.
No, that's totally fair. Okay, and then back to that final question that I totally cut you off of. What sort of projects? Are there any projects coming up that you're excited about that you'd want to talk about, let people know?
Just my YouTube video, my YouTube videos. I'm not sure. Vehemence is taking care of those 2 tracks that are on my SoundCloud. That's like the last thing I've done on my kind of Sadowick, my main alias, but I have like 80 other aliases that appear on my label like weekly.
Oh, okay.
Because I make a lot of music.
How many hours do you spend?
I guess those 2 tracks on my SoundCloud.
Okay.
It's a full-time job, so it's like 12 hours a day.
Okay.
Mixed in with YouTube videos and music making. And,
okay.
Yeah.
So if you're not making YouTube videos, you're still making music.
Yeah, I'm always
cool.
Yeah, I'm always doing something. Even when I can't hold my head upright, I'll go and lay down in bed on my MacBook and make music on there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Power to you, man. Good stuff. Okay, cool. Well, I will. It's youtube.com/Sadowick Production. Everybody, I'm going to be sure to put in a bunch of your links in the info, and also this stuff that we originally talked about earlier. That'll also be in there. So I want to thank you so much for your time, and thank you so much for coming on the show.
For sure.
All right, bye.